Have you ever wondered how some families manage to maintain their wealth across generations while others struggle to make ends meet? In this episode, we're diving into the secrets of building and preserving generational wealth. We're going to explore the strategy used by the wealthy and show you how you can apply these techniques to ensure your family's financial future. From investment tips to practical financial planning, get ready to uncover the key steps that can transform your family's legacy. Stay tuned, you don't want to miss this. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Financial Mirror. Where future success is reflected in our knowledge of fixing the one thing we can control, ourselves.
Welcome to the Financial Mirror, and thanks for joining me today as we continue to work to improve the one thing we can control, ourselves. Here at the Financial Mirror, it is not about the numbers and spreadsheets alone, but about transforming and educating you on money so that you can make smarter financial decisions. If this is the first time you are joining in, don't forget to hit subscribe on YouTube to be notified of all the new episodes as they release. If you're listening to this on Rumble, don't forget to follow and like the channel. And if you are on a podcast platform of your choice, don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast. So today we are talking about generational wealth. And generational wealth is something that I have mentioned in previous episodes, but it's just kind of been in passing, right? Like, do you want, I had an episode about, do you want your kid to be a millionaire, and how can you get your kid to be a millionaire? Like just through some small actions that you can take now, things like that. Today, I want to talk about how generational wealth can occur. And it's something that is not really thought about at all regards. But what it's really talking about is how the actions that you take today will influence multiple generations if you kind of apply these things to your family and how you talk about and deal with money. The key to generational wealth, and I want to talk about this from like a relay race, analogy. When you think about a runner and track and field runner, and you are in a relay race, right? What's the key component that makes an individual running race versus a relay race so different? Well, it's the handoff. It's taking the baton, running it around the track, and handing it off to your partner. And I want you to kind of use that as an analogy and visualization to think about how generational wealth is done. If you don't have a good setup, if you don't have a good lead up and a good smooth handoff, passing on wealth will just kind of fall through the cracks. It'll kind of just break through it. Even if you become really wealthy, generationally, if you don't have a smooth handoff, well, your kids are going to fumble the baton, right? Like you're going to give them, millions of dollars. They're going to fumble it, and that's it. What I want to talk about today is how to make that a very smooth transition, a very smooth handoff, because that is the key to continuing to build generational wealth. It's the inevitable fact of all of this is that everyone is going to pass away eventually. I mean, that's a very dark way, to start this episode, but that's the key, is that everyone is going to eventually pass away. But the key is that you've got to make an essential plan for wealth to transfer to the rest of the generations. And I talked about this in a previous episode, but the point that in doing all of these things, right? You can look at it and be like, oh, I'm just going to become wealthy because I want to do all these things. And let's be honest, as you get older and you have kids, or you have a family that you've built around you, nieces, nephews, whatever, you're starting to build wealth for more than just yourself, right? Like you can have all the money in the world, and what are you going to do with it? Right? You can only buy so many things. What is all the money in the world really doing for you? Well, nothing. But what it is going to do is be able to set up the next generation for a little bit more success. And that's the key there. That's the key that I want to talk about in this episode. It's the key that I want us to focus in on, is that building all this wealth in the world is going to get you nowhere. Sure, you'll be able to buy a nice house. Sure, you'll be able to buy a nice car. You'll be able to, have nice things. But what does all that really mean? Like, what does it actually do? Well, nothing. It really does nothing. Like, you have an easier life, a more fulfilling life, up to a certain point, I guess. But that's really what you're doing, is passing this on for future generations in your family. So now that we've kind of like set the stage with the importance of planning and what generational wealth, how it can kind of contribute and be a part of your life, let's dive into exactly what exactly what generational wealth entails, right? So by definition, generational wealth includes all tangible assets. That's your investments, that's your real estate, that's your cash, and intangible assets like wisdom, values, and habits, right? Like all those things are valuable. All those things create wealth, right? You can't just look at this from the tangible things like the investments and the real estate and the cash and all those things. You can't just look at it in that. You're going to also pass on intangible things like habits, values, and wisdom. Now, when you think about this, the intangible assets are crucial for managing and sustaining wealth. And that's one of the points that normally leads to people kind of falling on their face after they inherit millions of dollars, is that someone had really, really, really good wisdom, values, habits, but they didn't pass that on to the next generation. They only passed on the money. They only passed on the real estate. They only passed on the, multi-million-dollar business. They only passed on those tangible things. And then when this person, when the next generation received it, they're like, well, I don't know what to do with it, right? There was in Hawaii, there was a Manapua shop, and I forgot the name. Was it Libby's? Libby's, I think it was. Anyways, regardless, I'll look it up. But there was a Manapua shop, and the family had gotten too old, right? Like they didn't pass away in this case. I think the parents had just gotten old, and they had to pass this on to the next generation. The next generation was like, well, I don't want it. I don't know what to do with it, right? Like, and so they kind of sell it off. And that might not be the whole story, but that was kind of what came out. But that is the key, is that maybe the parents didn't like instill like the habits and values and wisdom that it takes to run that, and they just ran it, right? Or maybe the kids just weren't interested, right? Like it doesn't always have to be that they didn't get the wisdom or values or habits or whatever, but there is a component of that carries through with the wealth. It's not just the money. It's not just the tangible. It's the intangible too. Now, generational wealth should focus on responsible management and expanding positive impact. So I saw an article, and I did want to share it, but it was talking about what you can learn from the 1% about keeping family wealth going. Now, this is an article from like 2015, and it gives us a little highlight here telling us this article is more than 8 years old. But regardless, the concepts here are crucial, right? It talks about the advantages of the wealthy. It points out a lot of the advantages of the wealthy and the wealthy have resources to grow and manage wealth for generations. It talks about having a family business plan. It talks about mentoring younger family members, because that's kind of the key, right? Is you need to mentor younger family members. And that's a big point in this article. But and I'll share this article. I'm not going to really like go through it line by line, but I'll share this article, and it is a really good read. But it really talks about how you have to mentor young family members. You have to show the importance of productivity. You've got to create that family mission statement and regularly reassess how people are doing. But using that like business model when it comes to generational wealth is super important, because that's really what this is all based on, is the habits, the wisdom, and sticking to all the values that come with this generational wealth. So really good read. I will share that article. But more importantly, I want you to see that generational wealth doesn't just have to be a a thing that is just money. And that's really how I wanted to open this up. I just wanted you to kind of get an idea of where this is at, what this is doing, and how this can really be, beneficial to you. So we understand it. We understand what generational wealth is. I've said it enough. We've talked about why it's important and how it sets the foundation for everything else. But next, let's talk about the practical steps you can take to start building that wealth. So let's start with early on. The first thing is that let's focus on the you, right? Because when we think about generational wealth, we can't even think about the next generation until we take care of this generation. And how I wanted to start off this part was telling you that generational wealth is something that occurs through generation. And I know that sounds silly that I said that you're probably like, well, I already knew that. So I want to tell you what I mean. You could be very early on in the group, the generation that is building wealth in your family. Okay. So don't get into the comparison game. This is not a game of comparison. Well, my generation is better than yours. It's not. That's not what this is. Anything like this is about. You could be the first college graduate. You could be the first person to start a business. You could be the first person to own a real estate investment property. You could be the first person to buy stocks. You could be the first person to even start investing in mutual funds. What I'm saying is that you could be the first person to ever do this in your bloodline, right? So what does that mean? Well, that means that you can't compare yourself to maybe someone that is 2 generations in of their family has been investing, 2 generations in of their family owning real estate investments, 2 generations in of doing things that just are naturally wealth accruing, right? So don't compare yourself. And that's the first thing that I wanted to talk about, is that when we think through this, generations are at different places, right? Like Jeff Bezos's kid is going to be set up for a different set of generational wealth building and maintaining principles than my kids will, right? Like he's a billionaire and I'm not. So where my kids will be versus where Jeff Bezos, the Elon Musk kids, where they're going to be is totally different. It's totally different. So I'm not going to compare myself to them, and you shouldn't compare yourself to anyone in or out of your circle as well. Okay. So I just wanted to start off with that, because so many people get so locked into, well, so-and-so is doing this and so-and-so is doing this. And you turn this whole thing, we talk about keeping up with the Joneses when it comes to spending, but when it comes to wealth building, people do the same thing. Well, so-and-so is buying investment properties and flipping and doing, rehab, resale, rent, whatever, like properties. Like, why can I not do that? You may be at a different place. Okay. So keep that in mind. Stick to what you can do and you will be okay. So what can you do? Well, the first thing is you need to create a firm financial foundation. This means that if you're currently in debt, that you're getting out of debt. This means that you're saving an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses. This means that you are starting to, if you're not budgeting, that means you're starting to budget. Like, these are all things that you should be doing if you want to build generational wealth. Okay. So the next thing that you should do is invest 15% of your income for retirement. This could be in 401ks, 403bs, Roth IRAs, all of those things. Those ensure future wealth, right? So those are very, very crucial. If you will do that, if you will start to get out of debt, if you will make sure that you're budgeting consistently, if you will get 3 to 6 months of expenses saved in an emergency fund, if you get to the point where you're investing 15% of your income for retirement, and you get to that next phase where you're paying off your house early, you are on the right track. You are setting up, you're taking care of your generation. And maybe that's a better way to put it. Every generation has a responsibility for wherever they're at, and that wherever that family line is at in generational wealth building, you have a responsibility. And if you're doing those things, staying out of debt, paying off the house early, saving 15% of your income toward retirement, 3 to 6 months of expense saved into an emergency fund, right? You're doing those things, consistently trying to grow your income. If you're doing those things, you are taking care of your generation, okay? Now, that's taking care of you. Now, there's something else that you need to be doing at the same time, and that is taking care of your kids. So when you're thinking about this, you need to do that the next thing, which is you need to teach your kids about money. And here's an article I'm going to share with you that talks about 7 things to do to teach your kids about money. And this is so important. It's so important because you need to share all those things that you're doing. You need to get your kids involved. You need to share financial knowledge and model wise money behavior. People tend to get on track in terms of this generational wealth idea. People tend to get on track when they looked at their parents struggle and they were like, man, I never want to be like that. I never want to struggle with money. Then what they end up doing is they become a penny pincher, right? Like they end up being very, very, very frugal, and they save, but they don't get to that next phase, which is the investing and building wealth. They just shoebox save their money, right? And then they hand that off to the next generation, and then the next generation doesn't have that problem. So now all of a sudden they start to say, well, I have a little extra money, I can invest. So then that generation starts to invest, and they start to and then the next generation is like, well, I have enough money to invest, but I could also start investing in other places. Maybe they get into real estate. Maybe they start a business, like whatever the case is. And you see how this all like generation to generation to generation, things start, like this whole flower starts to bloom. So you need to teach your kids about money. If you're doing all those other things, if you have a firm financial foundation, you need to start teaching your kids about money. Here's just a couple things you can do. Make them earn their allowance. Give them a job. Give them a responsibility around the house. Make them earn their allowance. Encourage part-time gigs. This could be a part-time gig. It's funny because, people used to sell lemonade and stuff on the side of the street, and I'm seeing people do that now. Like I'm seeing people like sell like muffins on the side of the street, like little kids sell muffins on the side of the street. I'm seeing kids selling lemonades. I'm seeing kids sell tea. I'm seeing kids sell these things on the side of the street. Kids are getting active. Like they're getting these part-time gigs going. If your kid's in high school, walk around the subdivision, the cul-de-sac and say, hey, can I cut your lawn? Like just for, $10 or $20, like beat the guys, that are running big businesses just to do a couple lawns, right? Get those part-time gigs. Let your kids contribute to purchases. Kids understand money's value by sharing cost. If there's something that they want, maybe they're younger and they don't have enough to buy it. Let them pay a little bit of it just to feel it, right? Make it a game with them. Open them a bank account if they don't have one already. Introduce them to investing. Maybe you hold the investment account, but you invest it and you let them watch it. It's their account, right? It's their account, but you open it and you mess around with it. You own it until you can hand it off to them. But have those honest conversations about money. I think that's the key. Have honest conversations about money. It's never too early to get kids involved. Start talking. If they have the ability to have a conversation with you about money, get them involved. Get them involved, because kids start to grasp like money basics by around age 3, but you can start talking. If they understand things, you can start having at least the introduction conversations with them. But that is crucial. When you think about the whole aspect of passing on wealth from generation to generation, you have to think about it from a sense of you've got to start young, teaching those habits, those values, providing that wisdom around money, and starting off with the kids that's going to be inheriting it is crucial. Build those strong money muscles early. Okay. So building wealth is just one side of the coin, right? It's just one side. It's just the one side that says, I'm going to take care of, starting it, keeping the firm foundation, take care of whatever my responsibility is, depending on where my generations before me have gotten the family to. You take care of what you got to do, continue building that foundation, teach the kids about money, whatever that future generation looks like, teach them about money. And then the next thing that you need to do is ensure the wealth is smoothly passed on to the next generation, right? That baton. Make sure that baton handoff is smooth as butter, all right? So what does that look like? Well, a couple things that you can do here is, first, you can write a will. This is essential for everyone to define asset distribution, right? Specific state laws, consider updating yours if you move, but specific state laws are out there. And it's so important to have a will. Once you start, accruing assets, you need to start thinking through this. If you have assets out there, go ahead and start thinking through those, because if you have businesses, if you have, money, if you have whatever, like, you can structure your will how you would like. So maybe I just want to give you a heart to heart, but maybe you have two kids, and maybe one kid is better, with money than the other. Like, and I mean, I'm not saying that I'm saying that one of them is literally irresponsible. I'm not saying, well, one is, has more money and manages money better, but no, like maturity wise, one's completely irresponsible. Like, if you gave them $10, they would, waste it. And when I say waste, I mean, go buy $10 worth of ice cream on a 120-degree day and drive 4 hours and it melts by the time it gets home. Like, just wasted, right? Like, just wasted. There's nothing worse than drinking your ice cream. I'm not talking in milkshake form. So, like, that's just wasteful. So if that's just, that was a stupid example, but let's just say somebody, like, one of them's irresponsible. It's okay to say, you know what, I'm going to pass this on to this pass it off to this kid, and let them kind of divvy it out when the other is responsible. It still doesn't belong to them. Like, I mean, you could structure that. I'm no legal expert in this, but you can structure your will in such a way that, you can set people up for success. You want to pass this on smoothly. The baton gets passed smoothly. So think through that. If your net worth is over $1 million, get with an estate planner to minimize taxes and ensure some proper asset management. So you can set up an estate plan. Another thing that I would recommend is a legacy drawer. So I'm going to put a link below, but a legacy drawer is, the whole purpose of it is to store essential documents to ease in the burden on loved ones during difficult times, right? It reduces stress and it ensures that all the necessary information is in the same spot, right? And the contents are things like cover letters, will and estate plans that we just talked about, financial account information, funeral instructions, insurance policies, all those things, their monthly budget, passwords, all those deals are in there, and it just makes life easier after you pass, right? Just makes life easier. So go ahead and set you up a legacy drawer if you haven't already. It's just something else you can do for that smooth handoff, for that baton to just get passed smoothly. Legacy drawers ensure families can manage affairs smoothly without any added stress. So important. So we looked at it. We broke it down on how you can build wealth depending on where your generation is in that journey. The key point here is, and I really wanted to make sure that I hit those, is that no matter where you're at, no matter your age, no matter, anything, these principles apply. Stay out of debt. Get a good emergency fund together, 3 to 6 months of expenses, fully funded emergency fund. Start saving for retirement, 15% of your income, and get that house paid off, right? Get that house paid off. All of those things, when you do those things, you will start, you're taking care of your generation. And now it's starting time to build the next one. Okay. So the planning, the intentionality, all those things are so crucial to transferring wealth and ensure a positive legacy when it comes to money. Now, generational wealth goes beyond money. We've talked about that. It talks about values and knowledge, but there's a couple of things that are just crucial that we've talked about is, You need to, and this is just to close this out, I kind of just want to re-hit those things that you need to start doing in addition to those firm foundational things that we've talked about and hit on. The other thing, you need to talk about money. You need to talk about money. Don't let that be a quiet subject around the house. Talk about money. Talk about when things didn't go that well. Talk about when you wasted money as a parent. Tell your kids, hey, that wasn't a good thing. Like this was not a good decision. This is why I made the decision. This was the outcome of the decision. Here's what I would have done differently. Right? Tell people, like tell your kids this, like educate them on bad decisions. Don't let them think that everything you do is perfect, because they could be watching your bad habits and you knew it was a bad habit, but you didn't never tell them. So they're like, oh, I saw my parent do that, right? But encourage open discussions about money within the family. Teach your children about money management, allowances, and budgeting, right? Like teach them that. Invest in your future. 15% of your income, 3 to 6 months of a fully funded emergency fund. Start investing. Get out of debt and stay out of debt, right? Just get out of debt and stay out of debt. If you're like further down the line in generational wealth building, sure, you'll have a little bit of money extra to start doing other things. But right now, just focus on doing these foundational things. Don't outrun your feet, right? And I don't know if you've ever heard that saying, but just if you start running faster than your feet, you end up on your face, right? It's just the way it is. But get the plan together. Do that legacy drawer. Go pull that link down below for that legacy drawer. Talk about that. I put a link below for the YouTube video I did on paying off your house early. That's something else you can do, is pay off that house early, and get that taken care of and move on. Right? Get your will and your estate plan in place. Use a term life policy. If you're in a mortgage still, if you've got kids and a family, maybe your wife is a stay-at-home mom, like you need a term life policy, because if you're the primary income earner or something happened, don't set your family up for failure. Get a term policy. These are all things you can do to take care of your generation. Take care of what you need to do in your generation. Like I said, I'm not comparing myself to Elon Musk. I'm not comparing myself to Jeff Bezos. What they're teaching their kids is going to be different than what I'm teaching my kids, because what they need to do to manage what has been built is different than what my kids need to do to manage what has been built, right? It's different. It's totally different. So get out there, start having these conversations in your family, start doing what you need to do to grow and build and take care of your generation, your responsibility. But creating generational wealth involves that. The open communication about money, the strategic investing, the debt management, the estate and will planning, the leveraging the term lives for that intermediary period for you to start building wealth and not put your family in a bad situation. Optimizing tax and estate laws, like taking care of all those things is so important. But start implementing these today, and they can help secure your financial future and the financial future of your family. So super important. This is probably one of the most important episodes I've done, because I truly don't think that you are building wealth for yourself. In your 20s, you want to make a lot of money because you want really cool things, and then you outgrow that, and then you get to your 30s and the cool things are not the same type of cool things. Like some of the cool things actually are income earning potentially. Some of the cool things are it's just different. You get to your 30s, things are a little different. Maybe you start a family, and that's when the family, you start to realize, like, man, like this isn't about me anymore. This is about this family, and you're really starting to embrace that and want to take care of that. And that's where generational wealth comes in, is that you need to take care of that, but you only need to focus on what your job is. Like you have a job, depending on what the generations before you did and got you to where you're at. You have a job, and take care of your job and teach the next generation how to take care of their job. And you will be thrilled with the outcome of that product. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for joining this episode. Remember, building generational wealth is a journey that requires dedication and foresight. Take the first step today, and you will pave the way for a prosperous future for your family. Now, if you need any help with this, or you just need help taking control of your finances and sure you're on the right path, head over to thefinancialmirror.org and hit book now to schedule your free consultation today. If you do want to give an extra dose of support to the stream, head over to thefinancialmirror.org/shop and pick you up some awesome Financial Mirror gear. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, and share the video. Like I said, this is probably one of the most important episodes for everyone to hear, because I really want people to understand that building generational wealth takes effort, deliberate effort, and strategic planning. So till next week, continue improving the one thing you can control, yourself. Peace.
Well, that wraps up today's Financial Mirror. Join us next week as we continue to work on ourselves, change our mentality, and to commit to achieving the success we always envisioned. Regardless of your platform, help us grow as a community. Please like, subscribe, and share with the people in your lives.